So this is what I want to get into right off the top, bro. I'm just gonna get into it. Your top 5 favorite fruits.
Top 5 favorite. Wow.
This is gonna be a thing. I hope this sticks.
Top 5 favorite fruits. Okay, so do you want me to start with number 1 or number 5?
Start with number 1.
Okay, number 1, apple. I'm an apple guy. I used to consume them like candy back in the day. I love me a good apple. I love me a Granny Smith green apple. The red ones are good too. They need to be. I can't have a soft apple. It needs to be hard. That's what she said.
Jesus.
It needs to be hard.
Chill out, man.
And it needs to firm. Let me use firm. That's a better word.
Gotta chill out, man.
It needs to be firm, and it can't be like soggy. You know. Number 2, oranges.
Shout out to all the oranges.
That's right. I had a friend. Shout out Ronnie if you see this.
Shout out Ronnie.
He's a DJ in New York. He's now in LA. He's my boy. He's a Mets fan. Go Mets. He had told me, I don't know if this is the case now. I actually have to text him. He has never had an orange in his life. He told me that one time, and he's in his 30s. And we were friends because we met online back in the day. I think then he also told me he never had an orange. And mind you, my dad goes through oranges like he does, decaf, like crazy. I love oranges. I love peeling it. I love the whole thing. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
My number 3, bananas. That's
shout out bananas. I've recently been getting into bananas. Recently.
Why is that?
Like, for first, like, maybe like 25, 26 years of my life, like, I just wasn't feeling them. Like, I was like, I don't know what it was. I just didn't like you know what it was?
Is it the texture or?
You know what it was? I wasn't giving bananas a fair shake. I wasn't giving them a fair chance. Okay. I don't know. I was just like, I looked at a banana. I was just like, nah, I'm not really feeling this. I knew how it tastes. Yeah. I was just like, nah, man, I just don't want a banana. I just didn't know. And then recently, because of my son, shout out to my son. Shout
out to Malcolm's son.
Yeah, he got me into bananas because he eats bananas.
Right.
And like, when you have a kid, you just like rediscover a bunch of stuff that you didn't even.
Right.
And you're just like, well, now I like bananas because then like I'll give him a banana and he'll say he doesn't want it.
So you take it.
And then I'm just like, all right, I already peeled it.
Yeah,
he doesn't want it. Like, all right, I just start eating it. It's like, all right. I'm like, oh, this, bananas ain't bad. So now I rock with bananas.
Okay.
So I
feel that.
That's good.
My dad was again. It's all for my dad. Shout out to my dad.
Shout out to Pops.
He would bring home a lot of bananas, and he would go through them like crazy. I mean, I guess that's the Puerto Rican part of him, where all he wants to do is eat fruits.
Right.
But he had a lot of bananas back in the day, and I was always scared to touch them because in Hispanic households they are either, depending on how old they are and the condition they're in, some of them are used to cook, and some of them are used to just eat.
Right.
Because you can make plantains with them, or plátanos,
of course,
as we call it.
Shout out to plantains.
So I would just, one day when I was younger, I saw that there was a couple, and I just took it and I ate it, and I've liked it ever since. And that's pretty much, I mean, there's no really big backstory behind it. I just ate a lot as a child. Number 4. So
far you're at apples, oranges, bananas.
Right.
Okay. I feel like that's the big 3 of like fruit.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised. Number 4 is pineapple.
Oh.
A lot of people like pineapple. Yeah.
Shout out to pineapples. I rock with pineapples, man. I rock with pineapples.
Apparently they say that, and I'm going to try and, at least my end, I don't know how he'll say it, but I always like to be PG when I talk, because that's in public. But I heard that when you eat pineapples, it makes your baby juice, it makes it more flavorful. I cannot answer that question.
I've heard. I think we've all heard this. That's
not why it's number 4, though. I'm just saying.
I don't really know if that's true because I've never like, let me eat a bunch of pineapples and see. Like, I've never like tried to test that.
Yeah.
But I just like pineapples, so
they're good.
I rock with pineapples, and
just
maybe,
not on pizza.
Oh yeah, nah, not on pizza, bro. No,
don't offend the Brooklyn in me now. Come on.
No.
But yeah, pineapple is number 4. I just got a big thing on that. And number 5 is watermelon.
Watermelon.
I love me a good. I mean, 4 and 5 can be interchangeable pretty much, but I love me a good watermelon. I love the taste of it. I love the texture of it. I don't like the seeds. Also, honorable mention grapes.
Yes.
Seedless. I'm gonna lump them all together because I'm gonna just cheat here. 4 and 5 are gonna be mixed between pineapple, grape, and watermelon and grapes. Yeah, that's where I'm at. They're just both interchangeably really good. They're better when they don't have seeds. They're very tasty. Even when they go bad, they're still somewhat eatable. You know, grapes become raisins, and watermelons are just soggy juice. That's it. If that makes any sense, I don't know.
It is.
So that's my top 5. Pretty much.
I'm not big on watermelons. I like your list, so I'm not really gonna make a list, but I'll just add a couple honorable mentions. Plums, great. I love plums. I'd actually cut, if I was doing your list, I'd cut plums right ahead of bananas, and it would be right there at number 3.
Okay.
And everything else moves back.
I dig
but and then fun fact about plums, you can't. They're only harvested like 4 or 5 months out of the year.
Really?
Yeah, it's like from like May to September or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, they're not all year round.
I didn't know
like,
that.
You go to a ShopRite in like November, December, you're not going to find any plums.
Really?
They don't. Yeah, they just don't exist at that time. Like, they're only harvested at,
wow,
basically the summertime.
I never thought to test that out. I might actually start testing that out this year. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, because I was going to the store trying to find plums like in the winter, and I was like, yo, I can't find it. Where are all the plums at? And then I did some research and found that shit out. I was like, yo, that's crazy.
That is nuts. I did not know that. I, honest to goodness, did not know that.
That makes them even better, because it's
I
like,
know.
yo, you can't even have plums when you want them. Like, you can't order them, nothing. It's just like,
okay,
that time of the year.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
you learn something new every day. Damn. Okay.
Crazy.
Spitting facts on me now.
Yeah, it's podcast for the children. Educational. This is education. I'm going to list this under the education tab.
This is PBS.
Yes. .org. All that.
So plums, honorable mention. What else?
Yeah, plums. I think you hit everything. Tangerines are like, basically like oranges. So
yeah,
but oranges. Go back to oranges. What you were saying with your friend that like avoided oranges his whole life. That's pretty insane, man. Like, I love the whole eating oranges. To me, I'm a seafood guy, so I like eating shellfish, crabs, clams, all that stuff. So like, opening up stuff and like eating it is like half of the.
Yeah,
it's like part
that's
of the
fun part of it. Yeah, that's
part of
the fun
it.
part of it.
Like, even when you eat crabs, it's like, it's not that much meat when you actually get into the crab.
Yeah, I know.
But it's just fun to just open it up and get to the meat. But so it's enjoyable in that regard. I feel like that makes oranges more enjoyable. But apples, man. I've always been like a Granny Smith sort of guy. I like those Granny Smiths. They hit my taste buds kind of crazy.
Well, it's the sour.
Yeah,
it's the green and whatever. I don't know what it is. The way that it's made, it's. I remember the first time I tried a green apple when I was a kid, and I was like blown away by it. The simple things in life just make me fascinated for some reason. Like, so the thing about me that you'll come to find out soon enough is I'm very impressed by simple things. Because
as you should be.
So I'll find something out, or I'll learn something, even at my current age of 30, and I will be fascinated by it. Like, honest to goodness, I am fascinated. Like, when I found out how to deliver things the other day properly, like take the things to the post office and figure out how it works. Wow, no way,
Right.
And I don't mean to offend you being a postman, of course, but
no, I don't care about any of that, bro. I feel you, bro. It's like you can never stop learning either. It's like you don't know everything.
No.
So it's just stuff you're always gonna constantly gonna get new information. And the moment you stop trying to learn is like you just stop evolving as a person. So it's like
and I hate when people they go around online and they're like, oh, you didn't know that? Well, sometimes people come from different places.
You're not
expected to know everything by the time you're 25. What makes you think you're going to learn everything by the time you're 30? I'm guarantee you there are other people back in the day who figured out certain things later in life, and then that's how you pass things on to other people, or at least your family.
Exactly.
Like, I'm trying to think of some other things that I picked up on, because I can be pretty stupid at times. I'm drawing a blank right now, but like, I'll give you an example. This actually happened to me the other day. Excuse me. Oh, you could cut that out. No, that's my asthma. So Saturday evening, it's not about baseball. It's just me coming from a game. I came from Queens from a baseball game. Now, from there, you have to take the Long Island Railroad back into the city, right? Okay. So now they put a new station inside Grand Central Station, because before it used to run from Metz Willets Point in Queens all the way down into Penn Station. But because now they added another terminal, which I went in there and it's cavernous. There's an extra stop and it's not as crowded, so Penn doesn't get over flooded and whatever, because that's the busiest train station in the world.
Right.
So I had never really been to Grand Central. Grand Central is at 42nd Street. I think it's 5th and 42nd Street, and Penn Station's between 32nd and 33rd on 7th Avenue. Grand Central Station's east, and Penn Station is west.
Right. Shout out Penn Station and
dirtiest train station in the world.
7th Avenue. Yeah.
You don't got to shout it out. It's terrible. So I decided, you know what, the train to Penn Station from the ballpark was an extra 30 minutes. I wanted to get home. It was late. The team had lost already, so I was already pissed off as is. So shout out to the Mets for pissing me off. So I decided, all right, I'm just going to take a gamble. I'm going to go to Grand Central. Never been in there really much. So I go in, and this thing is cavernous. Like, it's gorgeous. It's new, at least the Long Island Railroad part is. And then when you walk out into the main concourse, you see the old school, paintings and the style of architecture, and it's beautiful. So I walk out. So I look to my left, look to my right. There's a bunch of taxis and cars and a bunch of New Yorkers going around. Hey, I'm walking here. That is a thing. So I looked at my phone real quick, looked at where I was. I knew how to get around. I just need to know where I needed to go. So I looked at my phone real quick. Took a look where I needed to go, and I was able to find my way from there. I walked all the way down, and it's a grid, basically, once you get the hang of it. And I had never done that before, like in terms of coming from that area. And right. I got to my train 10 minutes earlier than what it was expected. So you learn something new every day. You know?
Learn how to travel better, travel more efficiently.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, I feel like good decisions always come when you say, when you're telling a story, you're like, it was late. I feel like good decisions come from that.
Yeah.
Like, usually when you say it's late, that means I'm tired. I don't feel like bullshitting. I don't feel like messing around.
Right.
So I'm just going to cut straight to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually like a good, that's how you should just live your life. Just like, I'm tired. It's late. Let me just do this.
Especially if you're in the middle of New York City.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And the thing is that I had been going to New York City pretty consistently. I mean, I was born there, but I didn't really go to New York City much until like 1997, 98, because my dad used to work out there.
Right.
So he worked at CBS Black Rock, which is near Rockefeller Center. So they're not too far from each other. So that is basically past like Times Square, near Central Park, around that area.
Shout out Central Park.
Shout out. So, like, I would go every year because my dad used to work, like I said, at CBS Black Rock. He worked for a real estate company. So I used to see, celebrities walk in and out of the building. And I used to see all parts of New York City, Central Park. So I would go 3 times a year. I would go the day before Thanksgiving. Yeah. Day before Christmas break and New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Now, word of advice for anyone who's either watching this that's either not from the city or wants to go to New York City. You too, over here, this camera. Don't ever come to New York City on New Year's Eve. That is a touristy thing.
Definitely not.
Don't ask us if we do it, because we don't. Sometimes it'll be, in the later years, it's been kind of warm. But I remember one year, 2017 going into 2018, it was 2 degrees outside, and you got all these people from, like, Nebraska, which, no offense to Nebraska, by the way. All these people coming from
shout out to Nebraska.
Right, all these people come from different places. And if that's something you want to do, go ahead. That's on you. God bless you.
I wouldn't do it.
But, no. So the reason why I mention that is because like I said, I would go to New York City every year, and every year on New Year's Eve, my dad would always have to be in this city by 6 a.m. So I was always up by like 4, so we got to this city around 5:30 in the morning. And I kid you not, once we hit Times Square, because Port Authority's right there. You get out of Port Authority, the bus terminal, 42nd Street, Times Square is right there. The whole place is barricaded off, and it's packed. 5:30 in the morning. And these people are huddled up in the same spot they're going to be in almost 20-something hours. I think that's ridiculous.
It's nuts.
But if you want to do that, you do you, honey boo-boo. But from what I've seen every year, it's not ideal. It's just Happy New Year, and then, okay, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to watch The Twilight Zone. That's it.
I would recommend just don't even go outside on New Year's, honestly.
No.
Like, figure out what you're going to do and, like, go there early in the day and just stay there.
Right.
And just don't go outside.
Get back to the house by like 8 o'clock. Because I did that. Because, so, again, funny story, I guess, in terms of New Year's, if I may.
Right.
So, end of 21 coming into 22. My friend, his cousin came from Tijuana. He worked in San Diego. So
shout out to Tijuana and San Diego.
TJ, all day.
Yeah.
So we had gone to San Diego earlier in the year, and he said to us, my friend's cousin, he says, I got to go out there again, So I said, all right, bet, I got you. So I got tickets to a Ranger hockey game, which I think you would love, by the way. That's another discussion. We got tickets to a Devils hockey game, and then we would walk around the city because he hadn't been to Times Square since he was like a kid. And then him and his cousin, my friend and his cousin, they went to do other things while I went home. So New Year's Eve, we went to the Devils game in Newark. Now, I had already been feeling kind of sick. It turns out I actually had COVID, but I didn't know it yet. So I had my mask on. I was safe. No one got sick. By the way, they got sick somewhere else, so it wasn't my fault. I confirmed that. Don't judge me, Mom. So it was so the game started at 1. So by the time it was like 3 o'clock, we hung out, we got dinner. And so finally it was about 5, 6 o'clock. That's when it starts getting dark in the summer.
Yeah.
Right?
Typically.
Or not the summer, the winter, sorry. And then all of a sudden...
I understood what you were saying.
Yeah. So all of a sudden it's like, it's 5, 6 o'clock. It's like, I want to go home. I don't feel well. I saw a really boring hockey game, which is not something I ever really say. And so I went home. All right. My friend and his cousin had a whole escapade around the city in New Year's Eve. And I won't get into the details, but basically it involved them getting back at around like 1, 2 in the morning. And I went to them and I said, dude, how do you enjoy that? Honest to goodness, like, how do you enjoy being out on a holiday like that when you could have just been home taking it easy? And I guess different strokes for different folks, I guess, but that's not me.
Listen, man, I'm the type that's like, how do you just enjoy being just outside? Just in general, bro. Like, I go outside for 3 reasons. 3 reasons only. I go to work, I go to the gym, and I don't know, I guess I take my son to the park.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't like going outside, especially more now. I was never like a big, like, just, I don't know. I was never big, like a big, not that I'm not a social person, because I am a social, it's weird.
Right.
It's weird. I like people. I like to talk to people, but I don't seek out groups of people to be around.
No, I get what you mean by that. Yeah, I get what you mean.
But if I'm around a group of people, it's all good.
Yeah.
Just talk, but.
How do you think we became friends?
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's a story for a different day. We could dedicate a whole.
Oh gosh, can we ever? I know
that whole journey of how we got to this point, right?
Exactly. But no, I feel you, man. Like, no, I'm just like that too. Like, I'm not antisocial by any means. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like going outside, but not to the point where I'm gonna make it like if someone, let's go for a walk, go for a hike or whatever. Okay, fine. Like I'll do it, just to, be around friends and whatever. But I'm not going to go out on my own unless I'm having some sort of existential crisis. But I mean, I'll walk, because that relieves anxiety.
That's the thing too. Like none of, like at this point, like, I mean, there's you, but then the rest of my friends that I just hang out with socially, they all have kids.
Right.
Like, everybody has a child. So it's like we don't even get to hang out like how we used to. Like, I feel like, for me, 2020 was like the end of like...
Oh, I know.
It's like BC, like before Christ or whatever, but it's like before COVID.
Before COVID,
it's literally
COVID,
like before and after COVID is
really
a different life. Because literally the next year after COVID, I had my son. And basically, my whole life was different after that. And then everybody around me started having kids. And it's just like the whole landscape of everything changed.
Yeah.
Before that, 2020 and before was just like a much different, much more freer time. It's crazy to think that. But
well, I mean, that also comes with, we're not that far apart in age. So, and I learned
we're a year apart.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I always have to say that because I forget people's ages sometimes.
Yeah. It's all good.
I'm 30 now and I forget things.
You're a young man, bro.
Drew, back in my day, we used to use Windows 95.
This is either a podcast of this is either one of two things. It's either two young guys on the verge of doing something special, or there's two old guys,
geriatric gentlemen,
that don't realize that it's over.
Oh,
I don't know.
My back is killing me. But the point I was trying to make is
right.
It was so. I guess you could probably factor because COVID, the whole thing meant different things to different people at certain times. COVID came around a time in my life, or at least people around my age, where it's like we're beginning to go into the late 20s, early 30s, or at least early 30s and going forward with it. So your bodies change, your mindset changes, things in life change, once you hit 30 and older. And I remember, I specifically remember how I was before, COVID. I remember March 2020.
He was a wild boy, man.
Yeah, right. You wish. Before that, I had I was like 30 pounds lighter. I was a little more agile. I was like 27, 28 around that time. Yeah.
So your athletic prime, dog.
Yeah. Well, not anymore. Well, I mean, I still have some of it. Pause on getting old here. But. I distinctly remember what I was thinking and what I was going through. I was doing school again, after I'd been out for 5 years. I had just gone to a bunch of hockey games. I was meeting up with friends in the city. Like, I remember specifically me, my friend Kevin, and my other friend Jim. We met each other through a Rangers website. And the Monday after I'd gone to a hockey game, we decided to go to like a restaurant bar next to Madison Square Garden. I never forget. There was a lot of Knicks fans there because the Knicks were playing. And
disgusting.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm partial to them, but that's another conversation for another day.
You don't have to support all the New York teams, man.
No, I've always been partial to the Knicks, though. Like, if it wasn't the Knicks, it'd be the New Jersey Nets, but they're not there.
Oh, shout out to the New Jersey Nets.
I know. Vince Carter, baby, Jason Kidd. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I distinctly remember us three talking about COVID, and I remember that weekend it was beginning to really come around in other countries, like in China specifically. And then the following 2 weeks, I remember, again, a lot of this revolves around sports, so I'm sorry. I wanted to go to one hockey game the week before the shutdown, and I couldn't make it because I didn't have enough money. All right, I'll go again the following week, once they come back from their trip in Colorado and Minnesota. Literally the day after the last game before the lockdown, because I and it's funny too, just a quick sidebar on that. Like, everybody at the time kind of knew shutdowns were coming because they were kind of coming around periodically. So the Rangers were in Colorado and they won a game in overtime. And I remember it was weird. The elation that the team had, and all of us had really, because the team was up and coming, so they were like, coming out of the woodwork, and they were getting better, and they were younger, but they were finding their stride. And I distinctly remember everybody, we were all going crazy. And then literally the next day, or the days following, everything shut down. My school went on spring break. Everything shut down. Sports shut down. I was going to have tickets to opening day for the baseball, for the Mets. That shut down. Didn't know when that was going to happen. And then it just kind of like everything just kind of changed in terms of the dynamic with people and with friends. Like, I know a lot of people that went through a lot of mental health issues during that time. I had my own struggles during COVID as well. It didn't help that I had to work in the middle of COVID, because we had to provide updates, for the city and for the people. So, to your point, it really did change a lot of things because now it seems as if, as a society, we've gotten a lot more comfortable within the home, which is fine. I'm all for it. But now that things are opened up a little bit, lives have changed over the last 3 years, whether it's been loss or, like having a kid or, your body changes or your diets change or whatever, this and that and the fourth. We've basically been conditioned to do other things. And I think this is the time now where everything is pretty much out in the open now, where we're really beginning to find that stride again. I find that myself personally, I'm leaving the house a little more. I'm trying to leave the house a little more because I can only do so much in my room after a certain point. I've been traveling a lot more, so it's definitely changed a lot, to your point.
Right.
So.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a crazy journey from COVID to now, and like. You see how you just cough right there? Like,
yeah.
It's crazy because a couple years ago, I would have been like,
oh, yeah. No, true.
Like,
real talk.
What you doing, bro?
Oh, dude.
What's going on?
Let me tell you, man. Before you go into that, I'll tell you about that.
Right.
So I have asthma. I have chronic asthma. I was born premature, partially collapsed lungs, so my breathing is not great.
Yeah.
So I cough no matter what because I have an overproduction of mucus in my throat, so that's what causes it. So I just remember... And it's funny you mention that. I would get my asthma cough, and people would look at me, and they would go. I'm like, no tiene COVID. Tú también. Relax, okay? Like, I'm good.
Get a load of this sickie.
Yeah. That's funny. When I had COVID, I didn't cough as much as I did normally, which is weird.
That's crazy.
That's
insane. That's actually insane.
So.
Yeah, I don't know what time tag we're at, but Indoor Voices Podcast. I don't like to say that at the beginning. I like to talk a little bit and then throw that in there.
That
kind
of adds to the flow of it.
Yeah, man, but I feel like it was a little too deep in. I should have said it earlier, but it's all right.
Is this the part after like 45 minutes we introduce ourselves?
No, hey, man, Malcolm Aqua here.
Johnlukes NY. I don't have a fancy nickname for myself. He does because he's cool. I'm not. Yeah, that's me.
Hey, man, it's real simple. John Luke, my guy. It's my guy. This is the former host of the.
I wouldn't say former. I'm trying to bring it back.
Well, the one-time host.
The late program.
With man.
Johnlukes NY.
We're gonna get into all this type stuff, but just to throw something on the name real quick, Malcolm Aqua. It's simple. My name is Malcolm. And I'm an Aquarius. So it's Malcolm Aqua. It's real simple. Just in case you guys didn't know that, you guys, whoever, follow me on social media, you see I'm Malcolm Aqua. It's like, that's what it is. But, yeah, man. I did actually have something I wanted to get into.
Okay.
I did have something I wanted to get into. And it's really, it's two things. It's something about a topic that I know you're not big on.
Okay.
I already know.
Okay.
Once I bring it up, you're gonna be like, "Oh, I don't know what that is."
Okay.
I already know. But it relates to gonna relate it to the main topic, which is something that you can probably speak on.
Okay.
So
I like curveballs. I'm a sports fan, so hit me with it.
There's a picture surfaced a few days ago, maybe a week ago, I don't know, of Wolverine and Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Is this the one where you think I'm not into it?
This is the one that I think you're not going to be.
Okay, pause on that. I was in Pittsburgh for the Mets series. I was hanging out with my girl. I watched all the Deadpool movies, and then when I was in Florida, I caught up on the majority of the Avengers and Marvel movies.
Oh.
I can talk about that now.
Oh.
Yes, I can.
Yo.
Most of them I can talk about now. So I'm actually very excited about the new Deadpool.
This is good, because for a long time, I know John's a Star Wars guy. I'm a Star Wars guy too. But it would be the MCU, which for a long time he wasn't big on.
Yeah.
Right. So. But now he's caught up.
I can talk about
most. So now we can talk about some stuff. But
I even saw Black Panther too. So.
Oh man, you on point, bro. You on point. You on point. No, but honestly, as outside of Black Panther 2 and the most recent Spider-Man with all the Spider-Man in it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it. But yeah, outside of those two, the recent Marvel movies like after Endgame haven't really been moving me. So it's kind of been taking a hit as of recently.
I could kind of see that.
But everything before Thanos was great, but I want to say the Deadpool, right? So Deadpool, and so you caught up on the Deadpool movies.
Yeah, I'm all on Deadpool. Yeah.
Are you big into the X-Men movies?
I've seen them. I mean,
well, all right, not even the X-Men movies, not the lore, but are you big on Hugh Jackman Wolverine specifically?
I mean, I liked it.
Right.
I mean, I can't say I didn't like it. I mean, I just always thought they were kind of underwhelming.
I would agree with you.
You know?
I would agree with you.
I mean, I just never really found it too captivating. Like you said, my take on Marvel briefly. Like you said, anything before Thanos I liked. Iron Man those movies are my favorites. I did see the first Spider-Man with Tom Holland. Didn't get a chance to see the other ones, but I'm familiar with them. And Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think that's pretty much the scope of what I really enjoyed, because all the other ones I saw, but they were just kind of like, you could tell it kind of became oversaturated, spoiler, whatever. So yeah,
I agree with that for the most part too. A lot of it is like formulaic, like it's just like they had a formula that they followed for a lot of those movies. But the ones that you said, like Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff, and Spider-Man also were diverse in a way.
Yeah. So,
but I'll say, the X-Men franchise, I wasn't like super huge on. Listen, I'm the type that I feel like I watch this stuff, but I don't necessarily like love everything in it. But X-Men specifically, I've followed the X-Men franchise, and Wolverine, I think universally is like beloved. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is like universally beloved as like one of the best adaptations of a comic book character.
Right.
So him being in Deadpool, and we heard the rumors of Deadpool and Wolverine teaming up, and there's like a comic book of I've never really read the comics, but I know there's a comic book of like Deadpool kills the MCU, and Deadpool just goes across different places and timelines and just kills every character in the MCU. And basically that's kind of what they're trying to do here with him and Wolverine teaming up. But did you see the picture that I'm talking about?
Yes, I did. I've seen that picture. Yeah.
So what was your initial thoughts when you like just seen the picture, just like off the top of your
my
head?
initial thought when I saw that was, if that's a scene of when they're filming, it has to be funny. Because I doubt that they're just going to have them walking together and Ryan Reynolds is not going to say something stupid. That's what I think, I
think it's going to be hilarious.
I think so too.
I think it's going to be funny. I like Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. I like it because it's different. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like just basically Deadpool just takes a piss on everything. Yeah. It's just like not serious at all.
Doesn't take itself serious at all, yeah.
I like that about him. And then Wolverine's character, Logan, you see Logan?
I have not, actually.
Oh, man, that's top 3 comic book movies ever. Like, just not even a comic book movie, but a movie with comic book characters in it. Top 3, like a movie. Like, it's really a good movie.
Okay.
But Logan was great. So, like, the tone of Logan, just the Wolverine character, is super serious. And then combining him with Deadpool, who's just the exact opposite.
Just straight man to the,
Yes,
to the
that whole thing is just going to be great. I can't wait for that. But here's the thing with me. This is the thing that I wanted to relate it to, that I feel like you can speak to, is, and this is going to be what we're talking about this episode, is expectations versus reality. Because I feel like a lot of times people set expectations too high, too low. And I feel like that's not a healthy way to view things. You can't set an expectation for something like I'm sure there's people who've seen that picture and was like, like, oh, this is gonna be the greatest movie ever. This is gonna be this, and this is gonna be that, and like Deadpool, Wolverine, like, they got to do this, and it's like,
right,
you're gonna go see the movie,
and then get disappointed,
and you're gonna be disappointed because it's no way the movie, nothing is gonna live up to those type of expectations. When you set stuff too high, it's not gonna, no matter what it is in life, you a person, people that you meet, like, oh, they got to do this, and like you have a girlfriend, like, oh, she's gonna, like, she got to do this. Like, women set expectations of the type of guy that they want, or vice versa, and it's like, yo, you gotta. People are not gonna meet these unrealistic expectations, because that's most of the time what I believe. Expectations are not reality.
No,
that's why it's like expectations versus reality, because in reality, I just believe you have to have a bar of like, no, expect just something to happen. Yeah. Don't expect it to be great. Don't expect it to be bad. Because I also don't believe in like, I don't believe in people having low expectations either. Because I feel like low expectations are not good either. Because why would you like expect things to be bad, and then, you know, if it's good, then you're like, oh, it's better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good either. I think you need to just expect something, but don't set it too high or too low.
Well, I think in that aspect, in terms of media, so to speak, media, when we consume it, especially if we like it, it makes us feel comfortable, and it gives us a sense of relation to something. So, like, a lot of people like Star Wars because they can either relate to Luke, or they can relate to Anakin's angst of wanting, you know, love, but can't, you know, having it forbidden. Or just even really...
Or you can relate to Han Solo and just be cool as hell like me.
Yeah, that too, of course. And then run off and leave Leia, you know, for years. But but that's a different story. But I think, well, as a society, I think what we do is... I think we've been... I don't want to say coddled, but I think what the issue is that American culture is so much different than British or European culture. And you can use media as an example of expectation versus reality. Because if you look at, let's just say The Office, the TV show, for example. Both shows are hilarious. One's just a little more drier than the other because it's the British version. It's very dry. And that show does not end on a good note like the American version does. The American version ties everything together very well, and it's actually really well done for what it's worth. But the British version, you know, so spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, you should have already seen it because both those shows are great.
You've been warned.
The British version with Ricky Gervais ends up with him, the paper company he works for, he gets fired because he's a terrible boss. Like, he is incompetent to the T. What they did with the American version was they made him, he was incompetent, but he knew how to sell. So even though he was annoying and incompetent, he still managed to figure it out. And because he had a good sales team. So that was the spin, because season 1 on both those shows were basically the same, but the American version diverted into a different direction for American audiences. So in most European, or, you know, like, I try not to lump them together because of Brexit, whatever, but that's not beside the point. But if, like, in the UK and in like Spain and Germany and all those other countries, their expectations are very similar to what you're talking about. Sometimes it may be a little bit more pessimistic, but that's just, you know, that lifestyle over there.
Right.
You know, World War II did a number on those in those areas, you know. But here in America, it's always kind of like the American dream and to go and achieve, and the good thing is always going to come out in the end. When was the last time, if you really think about it, when was the last time you saw an American-made movie that had a really bad ending on accident? Or, like, just, that's a little more mainstream. Because if you look at outside of, like the Marvel movies or the Star Wars movies, which they have bad endings, but that's because it's part of the story. There's always a thing at the end. But when was the last time, and if I'm wrong, and if anyone tells me and wants to correct me, by all means, I'm open to it. From my recollection, when was the last time you saw a piece of media here in the United States that was not an artsy film, more mainstream, that ended with a bad ending? Because at least at the end of Endgame...
What do you mean by bad ending, though?
So I'll give you an example. There was a movie done by this guy named Lars von Trier. He's a Dutch filmmaker. And it's about the experiences of a woman who's gone around Europe, and she basically had sex with everybody. So she tells the stories from after being beaten in the middle of the street. And this guy takes her in and, tries to comfort her and whatever, just to kind of, give her food and whatever, and she tells him the story. Normally, in an American sense, she would end up coming out and becoming stronger, and he helps her out. But no, that's not what happened. He heard all these stories about her having sex with all these people, and he tried to put a move on her, and she shoots him in the nuts. End of movie. Like, I kid you not. When was the last time you had an American film like that? At least mainstream, because I'm sure there are art films out there or less notable movies that have done that sort of thing, but it's not really prevalent in American culture.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of one. Definitely not a mainstream movie off the top that's like, that has a bad ending.
Right. So now you compare that to how Americans live their lives in general, which is, in my opinion, it's always good to try and shoot for more, because you can achieve anything as long as you use your brain. This is a very powerful muscle up here. You can do whatever you want.
Shout out to the big brain.
That's right. But when you talk about expectations of people and things like that, the one thing that I think that sort of, culture has given us is that we have inflated expectations of things. So, like, that's what ruins a lot of media. That's what ruins a lot of social interactions. And I think social media has a big part in this, too, that it kind of really messed up a lot of our expectations in the sense of that we want to get out of our reality so much that when we see these things that are in front of us on our phones, it's giving us a big dopamine rush. We expect it to be like that. They always make the joke online. It's like, oh, when I met her on the date, she didn't have the little filter on her forehead or whatever. Like, that's a joke, but people actually have had that interaction where they're like, oh, you didn't look like what you looked like in your picture.
Yeah.
So it's like a form of catfishing. So I think when you're talking about that, that's a cultural thing that we have, that we over anticipate certain things. And I've had experiences like that in my life where, like, people say, and Louis C.K. made a joke about this too, about everything being amazing. It's like everything has to be amazing, but it's like really not. Right. So like you said, the way I do it, and this is just me personally, anyone else can do different things. Kind of have like medium expectations. It's like it can be worse, but it could be better. And if it is, you'll be pleasantly surprised. If not, it's like, well, that sucked,
I'll say it like this. Like the Deadpool, I'm going to keep on using Deadpool and Wolverine as the prime example. But, like, you have a movie with Deadpool and Wolverine in it. I'm sure when we see the trailer, we'll see the trailer and we'll have different ideas of the movie. Right. But overall, when I go to see Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm going to try, and let me just say that it's hard. I'm not like above this. Like, of course, we've all set expectations that wasn't met before. We've all had low expectations, high expectations. Of course. But me, I'm like consciously trying to like be realistic about my expectations. So when I go to see Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm going to go into the movie only expecting to see Deadpool and Wolverine in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
They're going to fight people. There's going to be action scenes. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's going to be humor. There's going to be laughs. And they're going to interact. That realistically should be all you expect. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't, there's all these videos, and I'm guilty of this too, watching not conspiracy videos, but like theory videos of like, especially with Marvel, they get crazy. It's like, this character's gonna be in this movie, and it's gonna tie into this, and like, this is gonna lead back into Thanos, like when the whole Thanos thing was going on. So it's like, and then most of that stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They tell you, you watch these videos, and then you come up with like an idea of like, Wolverine's going to be in this movie because he's going to do this, and that's going to launch the X-Men, and they're going to be in the MCU. And it's like, bro.
Well, I mean, it's kind of wishful thinking, don't you think?
Just watch the movie. Just like I said, Wolverine, Deadpool, they're in the movie. It's an MCU movie. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all. Don't expect too low. Don't go into it thinking, oh, well, if I just think it sucks, then it'll be better than what I thought. That's not a good way. Why would you go into something thinking something gonna be sucks? Bad, yeah. Why would you even pay money for something if you think it's gonna suck? Like, don't do that. Just go, and don't go into it thinking this is gonna be the end all be all, and Thanos is gonna be in the movie, and like a bunch of crazy stuff. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Just expect what it is. Just be realistic. That's the thing. We always, and that's part of just the power of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because our brains lead us to, to places that we don't need to go, but it's like, it's just, when we see an image, it unlocks different parts of our brain, different memories, and different thoughts that are just triggered, and then it just takes on a life of its own.
Right.
And it's like, just don't do that. Even dating wise, like the whole catfishing thing that you were saying, like if you're going on a date with a girl that you met on whatever Tinder or something like that, and you seen her pictures and stuff, you messaged her a few times, texted, whatever, and then you guys decide to go on a date. The only thing you know about this person is what you guys have texted, and the pictures, the limited pictures you have seen. You haven't met her in person yet. So don't go into the date thinking, don't even think, and I hate to say it but this is just the time we live in.
Yeah.
Don't even think that all the pictures you see are completely accurate of how she looks.
No.
Like, yes, you can have a general idea of like, this is how this person looks, but don't go into it.
I know.
Right.
I know.
We've all been there. But like, don't go into it thinking like, this is exactly how this person, like, because she took an angle of herself and it looks like she has like big titties or something like that, or
she could have
big butt,
go like that and taking the picture.
Exactly. Like, don't go into it thinking like, oh, like she's gonna look like this, and like, oh, her butt's gonna be like crazy and
gonna knock me out.
Yeah, man. Like, don't just go into it expecting, all right, I like how she looks, and I like talking to her, and I'm just gonna meet her and just see what's up. Just be realistic. That's a realistic approach to things.
Well, you see, that also goes into, just like, you talk about expectation versus reality. You also have to factor in, like, what do you want for yourself in terms of what you expect and what you think could be real? Because what I think happens is that, again, when we're looking, when we look on our phones and whatever, like I said, it's a dopamine rush. So when we're using it, it feels good because it's triggering something in the brain. So everything that we look on when we're on our phones is heightened. It's heightened more. So when you see something that's pleasing to the eye, and you're engaging in it, you're interacting with it, and you're getting something out of it, it puts that bar a lot higher. The way that I would look at it, and this is what I did, was you find, like, let's say you're chatting with a girl. Let's say she adds you on social media. All right. You look at one picture. Oh, she's cute. Okay. You go and you look at her photos, right? More. See, because sometimes, the glory of Facebook is that people tag you in other things and it's on their profile so you can see it. So then you see what they look like in different situations from photos of when they didn't take the photo. So that's kind of what begins your I see. So that kind of puts your barometer.
Peak chatting.
Yeah, so
peak chatting.
And it's not even something just to be like, oh, like, it's such a douche move. Like, no, it's just, you want to just get a better sense of the person. And when you look at expectation versus reality, I think the reactionary responses that come from not understanding the reality is what we've really been plagued with a lot as a society nowadays. And I hate to say it like that because that makes me sound like I'm some sort of like, somebody that has like this big communist manifesto about how society is ruining things and all that. But it's just, we have these expectations and then we just decide to not think and it ends up hurting us, because then what ends up happening is you put yourself in a situation you don't want to be in, and then you make a mistake you don't want to be in, So, not everything is going to be cut and dry. Not everything's going to be complex. But even if it requires some kind of thought and a little bit of research, it might just help you out in the end run. Because then, this is what I've learned, and I'm sure you can attest to this. If there's someone that you really like, right? Obviously, let's say they have a really nice body. Okay, sure. That's great and all if you're, it's part of the package, let's just say, right?
Of course.
But for me personally, and I think it thought-wise is, if I want to be with someone, I have to look at them every day, And if there's not, like, and in this, it's the face, the eyes, also what's in their brain, inside their mind too, but, you're not only attracted to the physical aspect, but also to their soul, their personality, their looks, all that, this and the fourth. And, like, I'm going to see you every day or most days out of my life. I don't want to look at you, to the girl, and go, ugh. I want to be able to be, wow. Like, even if they think they don't look pretty, you go, wow, you look really nice today. Wow, you look beautiful. I like the way you look without makeup, because I know a lot of people, and men are guilty of this too, Trust me, I know a lot of guys that do this, where they overinflate themselves, they put too much on, or they mask their appearance, whatever. Like, dog, just be yourself, man. Like, don't put an image. Yeah, just be you. Like, so when that comes about, then sometimes people think with the wrong head, and then you end up getting into a situation. But just kind of be middle ground in that sense. Do your research. That's it.
Do your research. That's important too. Do your research, because a lot of people don't do that either. They just A lot of people. This is just a different topic, but like a lot of people just go online or just go on the internet.
Yeah.
Just talk. People just like to talk and don't know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So they just do your research, definitely. But just overall, don't expect too much from anything. I would just say don't expect, not even don't expect too much, but just be realistic. Like, just be realistic. Like, another example is like, you can expect too much but still be realistic at the same time. Like,
it's interesting.
The president of the United States. That's the president. You should expect them to do things that are going to be significant in how the United States operates. Or at least, they're going to be part of things that are going to change or shift how we operate as a country, or how certain aspects of the country operate. Those are those are things that are very high up, that are like important, depending on who you talk to, but they're very important things for the country itself. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, you should expect from a job like that, you should expect a lot. From a police officer, I mean, their job in theory is to patrol the streets and stop crime daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's very important. That is a high level of responsibility. So you should expect a high level of professionalism and priority from police officers, firefighters. You should expect a lot from those positions. But that's not unrealistic. That's just their job. That is literally what they do.
That's the base. That's the core base aspect of what is required.
Yes.
So, when they fail to meet that, then you have to figure out what is it the person, or is it the department, or is it the branch of, government or whatever it is that's causing that issue. Now, nothing's ever going to be truly perfect, because we live in an imperfect world, but you can still try your best,
100%.
And again, you talk about expectation versus reality, and I think another thing that falls into that category is the understanding or lack thereof of what exactly is supposed to be the baseline and what's not. So feel like a lot of people are brought up and they just don't understand things. But that's no fault of their own. It's no fault of their own. So
you gotta know exactly like what should you be looking for.
Right.
Again, like we're talking about a movie. Subjective. It's subjective as to what's good, what's not good,
right.
And you don't really know. There's not like a guideline of what needs to happen in this movie. But that's to that point. There's not a guideline of what needs to happen in this movie.
Right.
There's not a guideline of who's going to be in the movie besides what you know. And like what you know is X, Y, and Z are going to be in the movie. So you can expect that and don't expect too much after that. Like if you're watching a TV show, you're watching Law and Order. I don't know. You're watching Law and Order and you know what Law and Order is. So it's like you should expect there's going to be a crime and you're going to have the detectives and whoever's on that show now. Is Ice-T on that show? Who's,
yeah, Ice-T's part of it, yeah.
I don't know. I don't really watch Law and Order, but I'm just saying you could expect the detectives on the show and there's going to be a crime and they're going to solve it. I think every episode, then they come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
They solve the crime. They figure it out. Somebody gets prosecuted. Whatever.
Yeah.
You can expect that. And that should be what you expect. When you watch the episode, other things may happen that'll be like surprising, entertaining. Like might have a little levity because that's really a serious show, so it's not a lot of humor. But like you might have a joke or two that's like, oh, that was funny. Yeah. But like that's what you shouldn't expect. Those things you shouldn't expect to laugh watching Law and Order.
Right,
it's a serious show.
But it's funny you touch on that. That's what made the Marvel movies so good at the beginning because nobody went into those movies thinking that they would have some semblance of humor in them, and then when they did, that's what really began to skyrocket. Right, and unfortunately, now Disney feels the need that, they made some sort of witty remark. Now every movie
has to be a joke.
Be a joke.
Right.
And now, I mean, you look at Star Wars, for example, the last 3 movies, which is another conversation for another day.
Oh, man, I can't wait until we have a show where we can cook those last couple Star Wars movies because they are so cookable.
But what they did was they tried to inject a lot of Marvel-style humor.
Right.
And not to say that it didn't have jokes in Star Wars. They did. But it wasn't forced.
It's the Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, so, again, your expectation versus reality. So, Oh, there's the mouse. Yeah, Speaking of.
Thank you, Disney. Thank you, Disney. Jesus. Thank you, Disney.
I was wondering what he was reaching for.
Thank you.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Is that Mickey or no? That's Mickey. But do I sound like Mickey, or do I sound like?
No,
Mickey?
that was good, bro. That was Mickey.
I'm gonna take all your money.
Yeah, that's Mickey.
It's time for me to buy out Fox and ruin their catalog.
Exactly. That's like but yeah, off of Mickey, but like yeah, man, just people like when you eat an apple, what do you expect?
I expect it for it to be firm, hard.
Come on, man. I ain't asked you all that, man.
No, when I eat an apple, I expect it to be tasty. I expect it to taste like a fruit. Particularly an apple.
An apple, exactly. You expect it to be an apple. You know what?
Granny Smith, it's sour, which I like.
Yes. You know what an apple tastes like, though. So you should you expect it to taste like an apple. Yes. So if it does not taste like an apple, you'll be disappointed because it's like, what is this? So that's not an unrealistic expectation. No. It's an apple. Expect it to taste like apple. Like the old analogy that they use. It's a duck. I expect it to sound like a duck, walk like a duck.
Yeah.
It should be
if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it should be a duck.
Yes.
No, it's a transformer.
Yes, exactly. No. It's just like I just hate when people set their expectations too low on things. And I never really liked that whole concept of just like, if I set my expectations low, then it's only you can only go up from there. No, it's like
that comes from more than just expectations, though.
Bro, if you're judging things, if you're a judge, you should start at if you're judging things from let's say 1 to 10, you should start at a 5. 5, just be in the middle. You can't judge something before you've seen it and start at like a 1.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it. Like, you don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
You can't start at a 10 either. A 5, right in the middle. That is reality.
Yeah.
A 5. Most likely, even if you judge something, if you're judging something like 10 times in a row, if it's average, it's going to come out to a 5.
Yeah.
Like, maybe
Sounds
you judge
right.
something 10 times in a row, couple 1s, couple 10s, couple 6, couple 7s.
That's a 5.
It's going to be
basically.
a 5. Yes. So, yes, just keep everything where it should be. It's hard. Shout out to number 5, man. It's hard for people to really separate. It's hard for people to identify really what reality is. It's hard to identify for most people.
Well, now if we're gonna get into that, then you'd have to basically understand or try to figure out how we are bred in terms of being able to discern things these days. That all depends on either the upbringing or the societal, culture that we have. Because maybe it's just because I'm younger than, most people that I work with, or maybe this is just the recency thing. But I feel as if society nowadays, because of the hyper sensitive and quick nature that we have, generally, there's not enough time for processing. And that ends up causing a lot of issues, more than what we require. Sometimes the simplest things turn into the biggest things because somebody just forgot to think. That's it. And maybe that's just because they see it more now, or maybe it was more prevalent back then, or it's just a little bit hidden. But I feel like back in the day, things were a bit more slower, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
In terms of, you're going to have your goofs, you're going to have your nitwits, you're going to have your, insert old-timey phrase here. But I don't know. Maybe that's just how I feel. Maybe I'm just a bit sheltered more than others, but I just feel as if we're more hyper these days and don't really think things through. And then that's when our level of expectations fluctuates, if that makes any sense. That's just me.
It makes complete sense.
It
makes complete sense. Yeah, so I pretty much said all I wanted to say on this topic, but you have anything else you wanted to throw in there before we move on? Not
really. I just think as a society, I hate saying that. It's like the same thing I say, it's a vibe. I hate saying that sometimes. It has to come in the right context, of course.
Shout out to all the vibes.
Good vibes. No, I just think they gotta, we just gotta think more. That's it.
Think more. Use your brains.
Think with the right head. So.
Yeah. That's important too.
Oh boy.
That's really important too. All right, so nearing the end, I wanted to. So I have a little format here. We have a little format for this show. Hopefully this sticks. We're gonna check it out in post and see how we did today and see. I think the format that I'm going with, I think it should work. But right. So I want to end every show with a segment. It's still working on it, but I want to end it with a cooked segment. Cooked.
Oh boy.
Cooked. So when I say cooked, my definition of cooked is something that is tired, old, ran its course, burnt out, over with, bad quality. That is cooked for me. So, do you have anything of recent memory that you feel like in entertainment or culture today that you would deem as cooked by that definition?
Reality television?
I would have agreed with you, but because
certain types of reality television.
No, I agree with you on the premise alone, but I think reality television is actually going to thrive in the near future because of the writers' strike. There's a writers' strike.
That's fair.
And there's a what is it? Writers and the actors strike.
And the actors, they're striking now. You know, let me
so
let me
now
see if
it's
I can
like
change
reality
that thing.
TV is like they're gonna keep on pushing for. They're like, oh, this is our time. We got to get in here. So
what do I find cooked? I won't use that because then that's a whole thing. Because
right.
I know what you mean by that. Not thinking about it. Gosh, what is something that annoys me? My gosh, everything annoys me. You know what? You go first, and I'll see if I'll have something when you're done, because I have to really actually think about that. Maybe I'll remember when you say yours, because there's a lot on my mind right now with that.
Well, this is my inaugural. I guess this is going to be my inaugural cooked segment. What a better thing I can use. What a more fitting thing I can use. But Twitter is cooked. Twitter.
I love Twitter.
I love Twitter. Listen, I love Twitter too. I've loved Twitter for a decade. I've had a decade of just hilarity, comedy, just trends, just things that go on Twitter that I find hilarious. The last few years haven't been that funny.
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
slowed down a lot. Mm-hmm. And now, since that guy bought Twitter, that guy,
Mr. Musk.
Yes, that guy. He's bought Twitter. Nah, I mean, I don't have any personal beef with Elon Musk. I mean, whatever. He's Tesla guy, you know, whatever. He's cool, man. He's got money, but it's just, I just feel like him buying Twitter was a very selfish move.
Oh, 100%.
It's like he doesn't. Oh, yeah. He bought Twitter. He didn't buy Twitter to help the people on Twitter have a better Twitter experience. No. He bought Twitter because he was bored and he wanted to flex and like, look what I can do, look what I can buy, and look how I could change this app and make it how I want to make it. And in that, he's partially ruined my experience on Twitter. Mm-hmm. You know, recently he had first he basically made it so now people have to. Well, no. First he did the He removed everybody's check mark, right? He removed the check mark, so now you have to
pay for it.
Pay for a check mark. Mm-hmm. And then now he did the thing where you can only read a certain amount of tweets within a day, like if you're a verified account. Basically, if you pay for Twitter, you can read more tweets. So he's effectively made it so there's incentive to pay for Twitter.
Right.
Which I'm just like, dude, I knew this day would come. I just didn't know it would be now.
Yeah.
Where people have to pay for Twitter. And that first day that he implemented that whole rate limit thing that was going on, man. I couldn't read shit. I was like, what's going on, man?
Oh, my gosh. And that was the day of NBA and NHL free agency.
Yes.
So now you have to go, and you can't go on Instagram because Instagram's not an aggregator like that. And Threads wasn't up, and Blue Sky, the other social that's apparently coming out from the old Twitter founder, it's invite only. So you basically had to, if you weren't watching the coverage that the networks would have, you had to basically, Twitter's perfect for that.
Yes. Twitter's perfect for the free agency and your timeline. You see what's happening in real time. But yeah, he cooked it. That day specifically, that weekend or that week, it was just cooked. And there was a lot of free agency stuff going on. So I didn't even think about that.
Who knew?
And yeah, man, it was just completely cooked. I was like, yo, this guy's sabotaging my Twitter, man. Mm-hmm. Like my Twitter. Like I love Twitter, but dude. And I'm definitely the first sign of like a social media that comes along that really rivals Twitter. There is Threads. I don't know if Threads is gonna be what Twitter is.
It's not that great.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll give it time. Maybe it'll evolve and stuff. But right now, Twitter is just cooked to me, man. I'm just like, once the next app comes along, I'll jump on it with no hesitation. Yeah, if you go to my Twitter, my actual, not my app name, but my Twitter name is Cooked App. Like literally,
I noticed that the other day. That's right.
It's cooked.
I was like, what does that mean? Like, and then I just, I realized what you're talking about now.
it's out of here. It's donezo. Like,
I got mine when you're done.
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Okay.
Late night television, at least the current state of late night television, I think it's cooked.
Cooked?
Yes.
Is it cooked because nobody watches it, or is it cooked because it's just not good anymore?
It's cooked because it's not good.
Okay.
Because nobody watches it now because it's not good.
Okay.
So
I can get with that.
What ended up happening was, I'm a big late night television guy. If anyone knows me, knows that I'm a big late night TV guy.
Late night John.
I mean, I basically, like we mentioned before, I had a late night talk show, for goodness sake. But what ended up happening so between the years of like 2012 to 2014, there was a big exodus of a lot of good talent. Right. Jay Leno left. I wasn't a big Jay Leno guy anyways, but Jay Leno retired from the
Shout out to Jay Leno.
Jon Stewart left the Daily Show.
Sidebar, is Jay Leno still alive?
Yeah, Jay Leno's still alive. Yeah,
what is
he's not dead yet.
I had to ask.
He's not ancient, but he's doing stand up.
Oh, he's doing stand-up.
He had a show on I think it was CNN or NBC or MSNBC. It was called Jay Leno's Garage because he has a big collection of cars.
Oh.
He has a whole like giant like garage or like warehouse where he has all his classic cars. Actually really cool. Oh. He was actually a very funny stand-up comic until he took the Tonight Show. Then he kind of got lame.
Hey, no disrespect to Jay Leno, bro. Shout out Jay. I was just checking, man.
He was a very good comic.
I'm not tapped in with Jay.
No,
like, I don't know what he's got going on these days.
But he still does stand-up. He does stand-up in Vegas and all that. But right. So he left the Tonight Show. And then Jon Stewart of the Daily Show left, which was big. And then David Letterman left. And now David Letterman left, and then Craig Ferguson also left, who was on after Letterman. So now those are basically a couple of guys who basically did the old-style format in their own way.
Right.
David Letterman, culturally significant, basically was the precursor to street interviews, because that's what he used to do. Doing stupid things on camera, that was all him. Stupid pet tricks.
Yeah,
stuff off the building.
Letterman's one of those boys.
Right, so you basically call him an OG with Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Jon Stewart. So this is where. So before I get into Jon Stewart, Craig Ferguson was also a really good one too. Very off the cuff. He had joke. He didn't have like traditional jokes. He basically just riffed for a monologue, and then when he would interview people, it was just like straight talk. So he basically was doing a podcast before they got big, but he was doing it on TV.
Right.
It's very good. If you go online, look for Craig Ferguson clips of him talking to guests and also flirting with women. It's some of the best, as they say, Riz nowadays. But he was very good at it.
Shout out to Riz God, Craig Ferguson.
That's right. So, but he was very funny, very authentic. And the big draw with those shows was that the host was authentic. He was welcoming. He was able to make fun of both sides. That was the important part, because he's supposed. The role of a late night talk show host or just a comic in general is supposed to make fun of these things, and it doesn't absolve either side either way. It does not. So now the issue that we're running into is, so now you got John Oliver, who I still find kind of funny, Stephen Colbert, who I'm disappointed in, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, and James Corden was there. He left. Nobody liked him anyways. But basically you have this crop of people who they're not engaging, they're not funny, they're not interesting, nothing up like Johnny Carson.
Hey,
Conan O'Brien was another one.
Shout out to Eric Andre, bro. Come on now.
I was gonna get to that. I was. So, what they're trying to do now, and I guess it's the over hyper political sense that we're living in today, because all those guys left and then Trump came into office. Now,
cooked.
I don't like Trump. I'm an independent by trade. I'm just saying this right now. I'm a registered independent. Okay.
Right. Shout out to all the independents.
Amen. But
shout out to Piccolo too. I'm just
because you got him on the screen.
There's Dragon Ball Z in the background, so
Gosh.
Piccolo's on the screen. Shout out to Piccolo.
Ah, damn! I gotta go back into the archives to remember all that.
Yeah.
But so these hosts, so. Whenever there was an issue or something, and I apologize if I'm rambling because this is something that's actually near and dear to me.
Right.
When there was a topic like Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky or George Bush being an idiot, the way that it was approached back then was this person's stupid, this person's also stupid, but it was on both sides of the aisle.
Everybody's stupid.
Yeah, everybody's stupid, and that was the point, was to lampoon the news stories from both sides and then just be dumb for an hour. That was the point. You can make and if you're angry about something, you can find a way to mention it, but not vilify. Make your point, say it, be articulate, but not vilify unless it's needed. Jon Stewart was very good at that. That's fine, you know. But then what ended up happening is you started to see a shift when Trump came into office. It became all about him, to the point where now the jokes weren't just, I'm going to make fun of the news of the day. It was always very centered around Trump and the Republicans, and it was always just that. But then if you were to really look on the other side of the spectrum, the other side was also doing things that weren't exactly kosher, but it wasn't getting lampooned as much. So even though on the middle part of the political spectrum, I want to see both sides made fun of. I stopped watching these shows because now, okay, I would be able to watch it if it was funny. That's the thing. They're not funny. And that kills me because Stephen Colbert is the biggest disappointment ever. And I hate to say that because he did the Colbert Report on Comedy Central after Jon Stewart. That was probably the best poignant, burning satire ever. He came on. When he came on, it was when cable news really started to get big.
Right.
You know, the Bill O'Reillys, the Chris Matthews, the Rachel Maddows, all those talking heads who come in and they say their opinion. Keith Olbermann, another one. And he was the Colbert did the parody of like the right wing. I'm going to say something very outlandish, but it's so outlandish it's going to be funny kind of thing. It was great. Hilarious. He gets this show on CBS. For the first year, I went to go see a taping in person. It was great. It was funny, you know, very well done. The jokes were fantastic. But then something happened after Trump got elected. They just decided to flip a switch, and all they did was make fun of the guy. Granted, I'm all for Trump jokes. I do. It's great, fantastic. I love it. It's great. I'll make fun of anybody, you know. But what the problem is that if you're gonna do it, at least be funny. It's not funny anymore.
Right.
It's so sad, Malcolm. It kills me to my core because I miss the days when I used to be able to come home from work or come home from class and I'd sit and I'd watch CBS for 2 hours because David Letterman and then Craig Ferguson, I'm in bed by 1:30, you know, when the show ended. And all I got were laughs. And it was good. It was a release. And I feel like that's the late night dynamic back in the day. Ooh, I'm getting into it now. The late night dynamic back in the day was you came home from a hard day of work or a hard day of school. You put on Johnny Carson. He made you laugh. Then David Letterman came on, made you laugh even more. And then by the time 1:30 came around, you were happy, you were tired, and you went to sleep. Same thing happened with Conan O'Brien when Jay Leno was there. Conan O'Brien, great at 12:30, was good at lampooning this and that and the fourth.
Is Conan still going?
Yeah, he doesn't have an official show anymore. His proper show, where he was doing the late night talk show, ended in 21. Oh. But he has an a Max show coming out called...
Shout out to Max.
I forget the name of it, but it's really good. And it basically...
I like Conan.
It basically involves him... Remember when he used to do those bits where he would go out and interact with people? Yes. That's basically all it is.
Oh, it's just him. He's on the street.
He's on the street, basically, and it's great.
Okay.
So that's what that's going to be about.
I like Conan.
And he has a podcast, too.
Oh, okay.
Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. It's hilarious.
All right.
But my point is this, and I'll summarize it with this. The jokes are not funny anymore. The hosts are not engaging. They're very... Like, Seth Meyers is probably the closest one that's okay. Jimmy Kimmel's terrible. Stephen Colbert's terrible. Trevor Noah was awful.
Hey man, you're gonna hate me, bro. I agree with everything you said, but I'm not gonna lie, man. I kind of like Kimmel. I like Kimmel.
You know the thing with him, and he seems like a generally good guy though. That's the thing.
I like Kimmel. He's not the funniest guy, but
he relies a lot.
I kind of like him, and I think he gives me a little. He gives me some laughs. I think he's kind of funny.
I think he's a bit of a tryhard though.
I can see that.
It's a gimmick, and it doesn't seem authentic. And he's a big Letterman guy too,
right?
But you would think that watching all that Letterman would make him actually kind of funny.
Let me qualify what you're saying with this though, because you're on fire right now, bro. Cook. Hey, this is what the segment's for. Cook. Yes, but let me qualify it by saying I was never really the one to really watch the late night type shows, but not on I wouldn't watch them on television.
Uh-huh.
I was more so if I go on YouTube and there's a guest that I like that's on the show, I'll watch the clips, I'll watch the segments, or just the segments in general of these shows. So my whole spectrum of the show is just based on those clips and segments.
Right.
So
That's how
I've
Jimmy
seen
Fallon got big.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I've seen a lot of
Jimmy.
not Fallon. I meant Kimmel. Yeah, Fallon.
Well, they both. Jimmy Fallon started doing that.
I don't like Fallon though. I actually do not like Fallon.
Well, when you're done with your point, I'll tell you something about him that might change your mind. But
okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, yeah, Fallon. It was more so. I like Conan. I like Kimmel. I like Letterman. I've seen a lot of clips. I've seen a lot of Fallon clips, and that makes me not like him because I just don't. For him personally, I feel like he's not an authentic person. At least his stage presence is not authentic. No. But I know he's a performer. He was on SNL. I know he's done all that stuff. Yeah. But I'll say Kimmel has a lot of guests. So I watch a lot of his clips. And when he interacts with these celebrities and guests and stuff like that, I feel like he does a good job with talking to them and, having an interview. So that makes me like him more. So basically what I'm saying is the context in which I watch these guys is all basically from the interview perspective. Yeah. So, I just really watch how they interact with the guests. James Corden, I don't like him.
He's not. His show's canceled, so that worked.
Yeah, get him out of here. I like the karaoke thing he was doing. It was cool.
Yeah. You would really like Craig Ferguson then, if that's the
Craig
case.
Ferguson. I'm not sure if I've seen Craig Ferguson.
Bear down.
Stephen Colbert, get him out of here. I don't like that guy.
Yeah.
Conan. Yeah, Conan's A1. Mm-hmm. Conan's solid. Letterman solid. I didn't really watch too much Leno. I've seen some clips. I never really watched Leno like that.
It wasn't great.
It wasn't great?
Yeah, that was more catered to, if you know anything about late night television, they try to cater to a lot of the Midwest sort of attitude kind of. But that's what made these shows so popular, was that a lot of people went against that. Like Letterman was the complete opposite. Yeah, he was a dude from the Midwest, but he had a very northeastern feel to him. But he could also relate to people in California.
Right.
So that was the kind of the draw. To touch on Fallon real quick, he was actually good at one point. The reason why he got popular was because when Conan O'Brien took over the Tonight Show the first time, and then he moved from 12:30, Jimmy Fallon was picked by, because he was on SNL. So Lorne Michaels, the producer of SNL, put Jimmy Fallon at 12:30. For some reason, I never understood why this was the case. Maybe it's because it was the later time period. But they were able to experiment with more things, so it was weirder. But that's what made it funny. And he was actually like himself. And that's what made Late Night with Jimmy Fallon a legitimately good show. I liked Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. I'll be the first one to tell you that. And also bonus points for having the Roots as a band. I absolutely love that. That's the one thing that I like about Jimmy Fallon.
They both have the Roots, don't they?
Yeah.
Fallon and... Are they still both... Well, I know Kimmel's still on, right?
No, he doesn't have the Roots, but no, he has another band.
But they're both still on the air, right?
Yeah, they're still on the air, yeah. So, I love the Roots. And
Roots is A1. Yeah,
Jimmy Fallon with Late Night was very experimental, as was Conan, as was Letterman. For some reason, that 12:30 time slot was always the better show for some reason. But anyways, but then what ends up happening is now, because of bigger audience and this and that and the fourth, you go to 11:30. And now it's like the big sort of it's basically prime time after prime time. So now it gets watered down. So that's what ends up happening. So now instead of it becoming genuine, it's just a machine, because you have to generate profit. Because historically, the Tonight Show is a moneymaker. When Johnny Carson was doing the Tonight Show back in the day after he took over from Jack Parr, you had almost 10 million people watching it a night. It was NBC's biggest moneymaker, and to an extent these days it still kind of is, but doesn't make that much money anymore relative to back then. But the thing that Carson was able to do, that Leno, Conan did it for the brief time he did it, and even Fallon, is that they don't tell jokes. But that's the most important part. It used to be where you went on the Tonight Show back in the day with Carson, you went on, you did well, that was your career. You had millions of people watching it. That's what made you famous. And, things are changing nowadays, and it doesn't matter. A joke is a joke. Funny's funny. And jokes.
It's about a joke. At the end of the day, people, it's about a joke.
So that's gonna transcend the trend regardless. Yeah. But none of these guys, they have terrible writers. I'm sorry. Anyone who somehow a writer that's watching this, I'm not trying to offend you.
You're on strike.
And you're on, yeah, but your material's not great. I'm sorry. as someone who's consumed it.
Cook.
So, to summarize my point, late night television has become too one-sided, and the jokes are not great. Stephen Colbert disappoints me the most because I thought he was going to be the best, because he's very smart, very, very intellectual gentleman, but he doesn't really do much else outside of Orange Man bad, Republican bad, you know. That's it. So that's my cook. Sorry.
I love it. Shout out to Old School Toonami, by the way.
Yes, thank you. Yes,
started playing too.
Oh my gosh, I could get into that for hours. My God.
Don't worry, we'll talk about all of it.
Yes,
bro.
sir.
No, I'm just gonna leave this conversation with this, but I'm gonna say, out of all these late night guys, first of all, it's about a joke, like you just said. It's about a joke. Like Kevin Durant is on Twitter arguing with people, talking about, at the end of the day, basketball's about a bucket. It's about a bucket. So, in comedy, in late night, it's about a joke, man. Do you have a joke or not? At the end of the day, when you need a joke, you got to give us a joke.
Eric Andre does a good job with that.
And that's where I was, that's what I was going to end it on. Eric Andre is the best late night show. Shit, I'm going to say, to me, I'm gonna say he's my GOAT as far as late night shows, man. Like people, I don't want people to sit here and be like, nah, that's not a real late night show. It's just, no,
it's a comedy show.
It is a real
and they
show.
Air it at night. That means it's late night.
It's a late night show.
It is. It's untraditional, but it's
untraditional.
That's
it's
the point.
Ridiculous, but it is a show. It's on Adult Swim because he's doing things that it will not fly on. There's things that he does that don't even fly on Adult Swim. Like there's things that they cut out. It's like this is not going to make it.
My favorite moment, and rest in peace, Lance Reddick.
Rest in peace, Lance Reddick.
He's one of my favorite actors, and you haven't ever seen The Wire before.
I haven't watched The Wire.
Okay. Have you seen The Sopranos?
No.
Okay. When you get the chance, watch those two. But Lance Reddick is part of The Wire. He was also in John Wick.
Shout out to Lance Reddick.
So, on the Eric Andre show, I'm just thinking about it now. So, he messes with Eric. He slams the desk and he's yelling at him. Walks off the stage. You can look this up on YouTube. Comes back in. Dressed. He has the thing over his face. So he says, so he's dressed as like LeVar Burton in two different roles. He's dressed as LeVar Burton with the thing over his eye and the little Star Trek patch from when he was on Star Trek. And then he's got the shackles on his wrists. And he's shirtless like LeVar Burton was in Roots. So he walks onto the stage, and then he's just saying, I wish I were LeVar Burton. He's shaking the chains. I wish I were like LeVar Burton. Where's my slave roll? And it's so off the wall. I loved it.
So he's the guest. He's the guest on that episode.
Yeah, Lance Reddick. Yes, he's the guest on that episode.
So yeah, I feel like on that show specifically, you have to, in order to survive on that show, you have to out-troll Eric.
Yeah.
That's the only way to survive.
Tyler, the creator, does a good job.
Yeah, you have to, dude, Dennis Rodman.
Yes.
This episode with Dennis Rodman, he's literally, but the thing is with Dennis Rodman, he's such an off-putting character himself that he didn't even need to do anything.
No.
He just went on there. There was like some Skittles on the ground. He like picked them up and ate them. It's like he was jarring to Eric. Eric was looking at this dude like, what's going on here? You like, if you are a weirdo going on that show, you're going to best Eric in that regard. But him, and when they had Hannibal on there, it was just that show was top tier. He's not on. There's like a new season. He's not on there because I was actually watching an interview from Hannibal. He said that they stopped filming like because of COVID.
Yeah.
And he wasn't sure if the show was going to continue or not, so he just started doing other stuff. And then the show came back, but he wasn't able to.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
as long as they're on good standing.
Yeah, they're good though. But man, the classic episodes with him and Hannibal, undefeated, bro. Hilarious.
I love Hannibal Buress. He's great.
I can watch that show on a loop forever.
I know,
man.
so can I.
It's hilarious.
Fun fact about that is he's actually inspired by another old school Adult Swim show. Space Goes Coast to Coast.
Oh man, classic.
I used to love watching that.
That's a
nice
show too. That's a nice show too.
Yeah, that was on the original. So when it started, it wasn't Adult Swim. Cartoon Network used to have a late night block that that they would show, and they would have that on there.
Right. It was like that's crazy. It was like a transition.
It was hosted. It was hosted by Moltar, if I'm correct. If I'm remembering that correctly, it was hosted, and then they started Adult Swim in 2003.
That's crazy.
Or 2000 or 2003, I can't remember. But the Adult Swim was an aesthetic to begin with. So
we're gonna have a whole Adult Swim episode.
Oh my gosh!
Just leave in the comments of this video or clips on Instagram or anything that you guys see of stuff that you want us to talk about, because we can talk about a whole lot. We're gonna get into a whole lot for sure. But
yes, sir.
Yeah, buddy. But yeah, man. I think that's a cool little point for us to end it at. You know what I'm saying? So it's been good. It's been real. Shout out to the Ginyu Force. Do you remember Dragon Ball Z?
I as much as I can, I'm trying to remember.
Just off the top, do you remember the Ginyu Force specifically?
You'd have to rejigger my memory. It's been so long since I've watched it, but
Namek. They were on Namek. They were Frieza's. They were Frieza's special ops team.
Got it.
To like
that's
get
all
the
you had
Dragon
to say.
Balls.
That's all you had to say.
Yeah, you remember that?
Okay, I got it.
It was like Captain Ginyu.
Yep.
And he switched bodies with Goku.
Yes, that's right.
And
okay.
they had like this stupid pose that.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I just remember the blue guy, Berter. Yeah. I'm a Dragon Ball Z historian. Berter was the coolest character to me. He died so quickly. It was crazy watching the Ginyu Force episodes, because it was like everybody was on Namek fighting for their lives. Like, it was like Vegeta with his own ulterior motive to get the Dragon Balls. It was Frieza sending out the Ginyu Force, and it was like Gohan, Krillin, and Bulma was there.
Yeah,
and they was trying to get the Dragon Balls, and they were getting. And then they had to team up briefly. Vegeta and Krillin and Gohan had to team up, and they were getting the shit kicked out of them by the Ginyu Force. And they were on the brink of death until Goku just arrives, because Goku just arrives at the last moment.
Yeah,
and just
always
beats everybody.
Yeah.
He's just a MacGuffin of a character. But Goku arrives, and these cool ass Ginyu Force characters, he mops them in like 3 minutes in the whole episode. And I'm just like, literally, it's playing right now, but like. I'm just like, yo, that blue guy in the Ginyu Force specifically was a cool-ass character.
Yeah.
And he was diminished by Goku. And that's another thing that I want to get into at some point, is how Goku is the best and worst character in anime history. At the same time, he's the best and worst. That's a good
point, actually.
He's a terrible character, but he's a great character. And it's just like... He ruins that show because everybody in that show just gets diminished, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. He just shows
up, that's it, it's a wrap.
When he shows up, he beats the bad guys that were such a threat so quickly.
Yeah.
And the good guys that were getting the shit kicked out of them, they lose all their development because Goku just comes and saves them. They don't get a chance to overcome anything. It's just like, terrible. He's cooked, too. That show is cooked. Dragon Ball Super is cooked. I hate Dragon Ball Super. I hate the new animation style. It's terrible. They ruined Trunks. I could get into that for a long time,
that's
man.
another topic for another day. I'll just say this. Vegeta was my favorite.
Oh, yeah. So. Hey, that's why we're doing this podcast. Shout out to all the Vegeta fans out there.
Word up, homie.
Yeah. Indoor Voices.